I'm Amy. I'm with the Ambler Community Garden, and I'm here to give a testimonial about our relationship over the years with Backyard Eats. And we started this garden in 2021. It was a group of Ambler residents that wanted to start a community garden to help with food insecurity in the area, but it was a bunch of us who didn't really know what we were doing, even though many of us were skilled gardeners, trying to figure out how to make this happen. So originally we were going to have our plot in a space that was far away from where it currently is. During that time, when we lost a lot of volunteers, there was only a few of us left, and somehow Mike from Backyard Eats kind of came into our lives, and at the same time we got a grant from Montgomery County, and the two of those things kind of crystallized this idea that we could have a beautiful and well-functioning community garden that would be a focal point for the park that we reside in, and also feed a lot of people in a small area of growing space. I realized really quickly the day that we met Mike for the first time in Backyard Eats, that we definitely thought we knew what we were doing in creating this garden, but we quickly realized we had a lot of overwhelming things to do in order to make it successful and to build it correctly in the right spot. The site survey that Mike did for us on the spot, we realized immediately that where we were gonna build it was the wrong place. So we moved the idea to a whole nother place where the sun was better. He used a sun app to know where we were gonna have the best sun and where we would need shade, because we have an educational piece to the garden, or we wanted to. So we needed to know a place where it was a little bit shadier during the day so we could grow some cooler things like some of the vegetables like lettuces and stuff, and also have a place that was going to be shady in the summer for educational purposes, for crafts and anything else that we needed to put a table down for. So after we met Mike and we decided where the place would be for the garden, we definitely collaborated very well together. He came in and held our hand through a lot of the design choices, the building, his ideas, listening to our ideas. One of the things that I remember specifically was, because we had some issues with some neighbors being worried about the space, he came with a lot of ideas about privacy. You know, making sure that we're butted up against a street where a lot of the neighbors' houses are. So if they were worried about the look of it, which, you know, they didn't see it yet, so they didn't know how beautiful it was going to be, he came with a few ideas as to how to have some privacy where the garden would still be a focal point, would still be beautiful, but they would be looking at something pretty too. Over that course of that time, we met in person, we Zoomed, there was just enough collaboration where we felt like we were a part of it. Listening to our ideas, listening to the feedback from the neighbors, that was so important that we were trusted building this whole big thing in front of them. And honestly, the thing for us that was very meaningful was he kind of just took the ideas and went with it, and it wasn't like he needed to check in on a million things with us all the time. He came back honestly with, I think, one design, and that was it. That was the one. We just knew. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful space. Things that we did not expect to be here, like the moon trellises, never was and I didn't even know that they existed. We probably would have put cattle panels up and tried to haul them over, but these are not just beautiful, they're functional, and they are a focal point of the garden. Everybody that comes in here notes the moon trellises. And just being able to grow more things vertically, I think, was one of the things that Backyard Eats has taught me how important it is. For us as a community garden, our needs are maybe similar to the homeowner's garden, but maybe a little bit different in that we are trying really hard to utilize our space to grow the most maximum amount of food that we can, because we donate 80 to 90% of our food. So we want yield is very, very important. We've been able to donate between 450 and 650 pounds of food every year. So We're only in year 3, and I think this year might actually be our best year with food growing, which is very weird because most people this summer of 2024 has been very hot, very dry, hardly any water for a month, and most people's home gardens are not doing well, but this garden is thriving. So I think Backyard Eats, in the design choices, really, the things that shine are the moon trellises, the bed placements, because we have an area that they thought about that's more shaded for tender stuff, for spring stuff, and also our perennial walk, which another thing that I did not think about, but he kind of knew we needed. And it's been a focal point for our educational piece here at the garden, like teaching people about natives and perennials and medicinals and some herbs and like berries and whatnot. And it comes back every single year. It's grown exponentially, almost too much, where we need to like start thinking about it, taking some stuff out. But it is beautiful and it's functional and we love it. I would say also like the vertical growing on the ends, just thoughtfulness about the sun and how they can be used best and things will grow best and how we can rotate crops. Like, it's just given us a lot of opportunities to grow many different things and more things. The herb spiral is another amazing thing that we did not know existed, even as a teaching and educational tool, like with the microclimates and thinking about placement of different herbs that need different things is very special. It's beautiful. Everything pretty much comes back every single year. Every year it looks more beautiful, and now we're able to give herbs away throughout the entire summer. Another thing that we knew we wanted to be able to have a place where we could do maybe crafts with kids, have a meeting space to do whatever educational workshops and whatnot. And so we would not have really thought about where to place this like table and chairs. And we have our educational part table in a really shady spot, and it's, for the most part, I would say most of the day it's actually in like the perfect location. Thinking about stuff like a work shed and like they have irrigation, so we need, you know, our irrigation space. All that I probably would have designed for more plants, but in actuality, we are doing just fine with the space that we have just because of the design, and we needed that space over there for a gathering space. One of the things that I remember saying to you was kind of putting something on the outside of the garden, just because a lot of the feedback from the neighbors were they didn't want it to be an eyesore. We also knew that we had to fence it in, which I guess when you say like community garden, it kind of turns some people off that this thing would have to be like a fortress, like locked up and whatnot. But we had to, because we were putting a lot of volunteer hours in and effort into, you know, keeping it beautiful and growing things successfully. We just couldn't have it just open to the public all the time. So considering like the way the outside would look when you come in, and making sure we had plants, the ability to plant things on the outside, on the perimeter, was really important. And it's like inviting for the people coming in. People peruse the outside and look at the plants. And we have things that flower in the spring. We have things that flower midsummer. We have things that flower in the fall. So that's another piece of it that, you know, the average person wouldn't really think about, that I think that they did really well for us. We did have a significant amount of opposition to this garden from neighbors. It's hard to believe, but I think that they had seen so many things in this park, in this space, be built and then just be left to rot. In fact, we are built on a former bocce court that was kind of put in the 1970s and then was used for like 15 years and then just basically sat here, you know, weeds growing, and nobody took care of it and nobody used it anymore. So I think that they saw a lot of things, great ideas being started by neighbors, but never the commitment to keep it successful through the years. And for me and my partner Jen, that was definitely one of the things that we said, if we're committing to this, we're committing 100%. But I knew if we built it, they would come, and that's pretty much exactly what happened. As soon as the ground was leveled and everything started to pop up in the winter of 2021, people were asking more questions. Over the years now, we've had people that were strongly opposed to it. Now they come and they help. We've had this become a space for the neighbors, the elderly neighbors they grow a lot of things in their backyard, but they come and we'll give them, plant starts, or we give them tomatoes. We have a lot of Italians in the neighborhood, and it's been so cool, like getting to know Ambler through their eyes from the last 50 or 60 years, how much it's changed, and the stories of the bocce court that used to be here. So to me, the focal point and the thought of this space was always about community, not just donating food to the community, but making it a community space. And every year we're seeing that be proven more and coming to life even more. And having these neighbors who once were basically picketing and didn't want this at all, come in and now be part of the space, part of the story, and helping. It has been real testament to the garden and to everybody that's committed themselves to this space.